So next up, we have a great conversation coming up. It is going to be on the topic of ceiling shattering tools for women. So here's a little secret. The glass ceiling shatters from the other side, but you can definitely put the sledgehammer in the right hands to make it happen. In this talk with tech leader, speaker, and advocate, Angel Henry, she'll provide the tools for women to navigate through the rough terrain of any non-inclusive work environment, so you can watch that glass ceiling shatter and get on with advancing your career. Now, a little bit about Angel. She is a ceiling breaker, as you will see. She has over 20 years of tech muscle, most of which came from the pharmaceutical and healthcare industry. And here's the dog. I got him. Okay. The catalyst for her company, Angel Speaking, was to ensure that women and persons from underrepresented populations feel included at work. Validating negative work experiences, providing a playbook for emerging leaders, and guiding allies into active allyship has become her passion. Angel was recently awarded the 2022 Book Excellence First Place Award for her very first book, Dents in the Ceiling: Tools Women and Allies Need to Break Through. When Angel isn't speaking, leading an agile transformation for when Angel isn't speaking, she's leading an agile transformation for over 700 consultants globally, or adjunct teaching at Ivy Tech. She lives in the northwestern side of Indianapolis with her husband, track star, and her track star daughter, her son, a won't sit still kindergartner. Boy, do I know about the not sitting still right now with a 6-month-old puppy, and a house breaking Sawyer Jackson Henry, the family crazy Cavapoo. Oh, I hope the Cavapoo makes an appearance today. Angel, you and I, let's just talk about our dogs for the next 30 minutes. How's that sound? So you feel me, right? I was like investigating your bio with this little monster.
Absolutely. I'm on Zoom calls and he's biting at my hair and scratching it. Yeah. Yes. Yeah,
oh my God. Well, have a great talk, and I look forward to hearing it. Thank you so much for being here. I'll pass it over to Melissa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hunter. Hi, Angel.
Hello.
How are you?
Great.
Hello. So, welcome. We are really excited to hear from you and about the tools to shatter the glass ceiling. It's something we are all really interested about. So, let's start with the state of affairs. Overall, why do you think that women struggle to make the C-suite?
Yes, absolutely. Well, first off, thank you all for having me. And how I got to be in this space, as you guys are thinking, like, she's 20 years in tech, how is she talking about DEI and inclusiveness? Well, back in 2008, I got tapped on the shoulder to be an Agile Scrum Master. And it just opened up my world in terms of how you approach work. And the number one thing that I figured out is when you try to bring diverse people together in a room to do really great stuff, you're going to have some challenges and some barriers. So that's led me into the inclusion space and the inclusion work, which fast forward led me to an executive leadership team. As a member on the executive leadership team, so I went from individual contributor to executive leader in about 3.5 years. And so I'm really excited to share these tools and the research that I've learned, because in the last year, during my pandemic year, I was researching other women that look just like me and trying to find out, honestly, answer the question of why they stayed. Why are they staying in these tech roles or companies or organizations that are pretty much male dominated? And they're struggling to get to the top or to get to those senior leadership positions. Why keep struggling, right? Why stay? And in talking with them and in talking with coaches, mentors, leaders in this space, it really boils down to 2 main areas that have to do with the environment. So one, which is the hard truth, just look at the numbers and the stats. The hard truth is there's a lack of experience for women when it comes to financial management. So we need females to be running P&Ls, and P&L stands for profit and loss. So that means that you have to have a budget that you are managing, and quite transparently, Melissa, the bigger the budget, the better, right? Hate to say that, but if we do find ourselves with fiscal management responsibilities, it's for a team or maybe a small department, but not for an entire business unit where you're talking millions and millions of dollars, right? That usually goes to, between us, the big boys, okay? And so when it does come time to interview and to pose for and to really position yourself for those senior executive roles, one of the main questions that they're going to ask is, how big of a team have you managed and how big of a budget have you managed? And it might be decent. You might have checked that box, but when you compare what you've done and your experience to your male counterparts and the access that they have had to teams and budgets, then when you're on the candidate committee and you're looking at just raw numbers, they will win out. Okay, so that's one. So that leads us to the second cause, which is bias, right? Just good old fashioned bias in the workplace when it comes to the work that we do. So we typically, women, regardless of color, tend to end up in HR, communication, and marketing roles if they are SVP level or above. You will see men typically running sales divisions, product management divisions, professional services, okay? And there's a bias there that those divisions, the sales, the product, the financial piece, legal, those are more hard hitting than HR, communications, marketing. So right there, we have a bias in terms of our experience, and what we have access to limits our ability to crack through and to have those senior level positions. And then lastly, of course, it's internal, right? Fear. We talk about imposter syndrome all the time. We talk about, holding back, for various valid reasons, right? You don't want to play the politics, or you may be have a lot of home-based things that you have to do, whether it's managing kids or supporting your spouse or in their career, or you're supporting parents or grandparents, right, as they age. So there may be some very valid reasons why you are choosing yourself to maybe hold back and take those chances. And when you mix all those three together, you see this again, this unintentional, or some people may say intentional, ceiling that happens for our careers.
Wow, that was a great explanation. So let's move on to our next questions. Tell us what a personal board of directors is and whether or not everyone needs one.
Okay. So Melissa, this is my favorite topic. I am excited because I love talking about personal board of directors, because this is exactly what helped me. So the three main roles let me back up. First off, if you're out there listening and you're working for a company, you're not a solopreneur, you're working for a corporation, think of yourself as the CEO of you, right? So I'm the CEO of Angel Henry Inc. And as a CEO, what do? You have a board that is advising you and guiding you on major decisions. So look at your career. You're a CEO of you, and you need advisors. You need those that can help guide you to get to the very next position that you want, or the next level, or the next experience. So with that, there are three main roles that you want to have on your board. One, an advisor. Two, a mentor. And three, a sponsor. And Melissa, we do not want to mix those roles up. Let me tell you. Okay, so first, the advisor. That's someone that you don't have to know very well. They don't have to be personable. They don't have to be what I would say your BFF. They're just someone that has skills and knowledge about a process or a system or an application or a business unit or an industry. and you want their knowledge. You literally want to sit at their feet and take it all in. So think of old school apprenticeship, right? This person is knowledgeable and skilled in something, and you want to sit at their feet and soak it all in. You want them to show you what they know. That can be for a specific time, right? That could be 1 or 2 working sessions. That could be a half-day thing, maybe a week where you're popping in and they're showing you how to do stuff, but it's for a finite period of time. Now, if you and that advisor work things out and there's some personal connection there, great, they might end up being your mentor. Now, a mentor, that's a close relationship. It's a trusted relationship. You trust them to share the good, the bad, and the ugly about your career. So when you bomb a presentation, when you mess up and you're not prepared for a meeting, when you do something bad and you need a shoulder to cry on, your mentor should be the one that you go to. And they should trust and keep your confidence. And if they're worth their salt as a mentor, they're gonna build you back up so that you can go out there and do it again, right? But the problem is, Melissa, women and people of color tend to be over mentored, which means we actually have a lot of mentors. Finding a mentor isn't that difficult, really. Once you have that bond and you trust someone and you can share with them what you want and they share with you their lessons learned on their career, it's okay, no big deal. Now, what the kicker is, the role that you need, that's the most important on your personal board of directors, your sponsor. That's the person when you're thinking, angel sponsor, like somebody's going to pay for me. Yeah, they are. They're paying with their social and political capital. They're giving up something in the organization, their power, their privilege, their position, in order to move your career forward. So they're the ones that are behind closed doors in rooms that you aren't in, that are recommending you for a promotion, maybe a stretch opportunity on your job, maybe to lead another division or team, maybe even just give you a bonus, right? They're those people that are saying your name in a positive way when you're not there to represent yourself. They're quite literally sponsoring you or advocating for you. And that is the ticket. That's the role that you need in order to make advancement. And be clear, everyone has one. You just might not know who they are.
Wow, I'm learning so much with you, Angel. Thank you for this. So we have a question from the audience. Eleanor asks, how is it best to go about finding an advisor?
Yes, okay. Advisors are a little bit easier than a mentor and a sponsor. So you're laser focused on what it is that you want to learn. So think about if you, I don't know, let's say that you're in information technology, and we'll pick an easy one. You want to learn about cybersecurity. You're like, oh, I've been in IT for a while, and cybersecurity sounds pretty interesting. That's the up and coming thing. I wonder what I need to do. Do I need to go back to school? Do I need to get a certificate? How do I get on a cybersecurity team? Guess what? Go find someone who's very knowledgeable in your organization, or maybe even another organization that is highly skilled and has a great reputation at being a cybersecurity professional. And that's when you go start knocking on their door, right? You do what I call the LinkedIn stalking. So you look for, LinkedIn or Facebook, and you look for maybe a connection that you two have, whether it's, church or a school you went to, or some sort of connection, somebody that's mutual, that they can, that mutual person can do a warm introduction, or you just reach out to them and compliment them on something that they've done recently that they posted about, and start a very natural conversation. And then try to get some time on their calendar and let them know what it is that you're interested in. And if they don't have time, that's okay. Maybe they can recommend someone else that can help you.
That's great. So, we spoke about finding an advisor. You also spoke about sponsors, but if you want to ask someone for them to be your sponsor? How should you do that?
Oh my goodness, this is tricky. So again, I just hyped up the fact that we need a sponsor. So you're like, okay, great, I need one. I don't know if I have one. What do I do? Okay, well, first, this is where emotional intelligence comes into play. Okay, you have to be very aware of the person that you're seeking sponsorship from. You really do need to have a very informal conversation to kind of feel them out, to see if asking them directly is a good idea, because quite transparently, it could offend them. And there's really no hard and fast rule to this. As I did my research and I talked to individuals, some people were very open to saying, I would love it if somebody asked me to be their sponsor. That would be great. Yes, if I can help somebody in their career, I would do it. And other people think that no, that's offensive, that's intrusive. I'm not, why would you ask me to sponsor you or to support you? No, that's my choice. I'm going to do that. I'll let you know if I'm going to sponsor you or not. So you really do need to know who you're talking to. So have that very informal conversation, feel them out. What I found pleasantly surprising is that in that initial conversation, towards the end of the conversation, I always say, thank you for your time. Is there anything that I can do to help you? Right. And even if I'm quote unquote underneath them in terms of on the hierarchy of politics or, position in the organization, I still ask that question because you never know what they might say. And then it's usually reciprocated. Usually they'll say, no, I'm great, thank you. Or actually, I do need help, fill in the blank what they need help with. And then at the end, they'll kind of flip it and say, oh, by the way, is there anything I can do to help you? And then that's when you say, well, actually, I'm really interested in, and be very clear and direct about what it is that you're interested in learning or doing, whether it's a specific position or you're trying to get on a specific team. The feedback that I hear the most from people who are in the sponsorship position is that it's not clear what the person needs from them. It's fuzzy. It's, hey, I want to advance. Well, okay, where do we start there? So you really do need to take some time and think about being very specific about what it is that you want this person to help you with.
Great. So we are still speaking about the board of directors, and Stacy asks, should you be paying for an advisor?
No. Oh, no. When I think of payment, I'm thinking of, you going to class or school or getting a certificate or learning a particular skill from an instructor or a teacher. That's one of the only few times I would think where you would be coming out of your pocket to pay for someone. Other than this, you're looking at associations. That's a great place to start. So there's tons of, women in tech, women in marketing, women in business, fill in the blank, women in. That's a great place to start. And usually most of the time they have free memberships. That would be a phenomenal place to start looking for an advisor, and no, those should be free. But remember, it's a mutually exclusive relationship. You have knowledge too that you can give as well, right? You've been around the block a few times, your area. So there's absolutely a two-way street here. So don't feel like you're just asking somebody for their time and you're not giving anything in return. You absolutely are, through your network, your connections, what you know. You just never know what you can give back to someone else. So you're looking for a mutually exclusive, a mutually beneficial relationship.
Great. So moving on, are there different tools that women of color should leverage versus their white counterparts? Yes, there are. I'll start with one that's more famous. So there was a famous advice to women given a few years ago by Sheryl Sandberg around lean in, right? There was the book, there was mentoring groups, there was a whole thing around leaning in. And what we found in hindsight is that women of color, particularly Black women,
had been leaning in the whole time, but they weren't receiving the same results and not making the same impact. Versus when white women decided to lean in, we actually do see a movement. And so, for example, look at Fortune 500 companies. There's 500 CEOs on that list. Out of that 500, we have about 41 or 42 that are women, okay? Now, when you start layering in ethnicity, there's only 2 that are Black women, only 2 on the list, okay? So when these white males, CEOs, are leaving their seats and leaving their positions, there's an uptick in it going to white women, but not for any other woman of any of color. Also, too, women of color have to navigate this very fine line. It's almost like a tightrope walk between being credible and being competent, being nice and supportive and comforting and nurturing, but yet being competent and credible at the same time. It's a tight space to be in, for sure. So the advice that I give is, if you have a coach or a mentor, someone that you're talking to personally, and they're giving you advice and you are a woman of color, ask them, challenge them on their bias, challenge them on the bias of others, and say, is this advice really applicable to me? Or is this better suited for someone that is not of color? And have that very authentic, candid conversation.
Well, challenging biases is like the first thing we should all do with our biases, all the same. Sorry if you hear some noise, guys. It's because in Buenos Aires, where I am, they are trimming some trees in my street. So sorry for the weird noise. So we invite the audience to ask their questions. And I have another one for you, Angel. Out of all the research that you have gathered on this topic, which seems to be a lot, is there one significant tool that women should focus on to advance quickly their careers?
Yes, the number one thing that is going to help you advance quickly is sponsorship. Period, point blank. There's no way around that. Everyone has a sponsor. White men, the CEO, the CIO, the senior director, the manager, everyone has a sponsor. There's someone or a group of people that recommended that person for the position, offered it to them, and ensured that they accepted. So everyone has one, and that's the quickest way to get up in your career if you're seeking to advance or move. And like we said, it's a little bit nuanced and tricky to identify who it is that is your sponsor. But here's a trick. Here's a key. For those of you that happen to be new to the organization. So let's say that you just finished your interview and they just made the offer for you. That's the perfect time to ask who your sponsor is. And the way you do that, is by saying to the recruiter or the HR person or whoever is making you the offer, hey, who on the recruiting team really pushed for me, who really advocated for me to be in this job? Who out of those that I interviewed really seem impressed by me? And when they tell you, that's your sponsor.
That's wonderful. That's a great tip. So we have another question from the audience. For companies exploring a diversity strategy for the first time, what advice do you have to drive a diversity first mindset?
That's a tricky question. Only because it really has to do with the company culture already. So there is a quote by Peter Drucker that says, culture will eat strategy for breakfast. And I say every day of the week and twice on Sunday, Melissa. I mean, culture will take out a well-intended strategy to its knees. And we see that a lot with organizations that have the CEO and the C-suite level that are very well-intentioned about creating an inclusive work culture. And then you see the individual contributors that of course want that, right? They're excited. They're like, yes, let's go. We needed this yesterday. But it's that middle management layer, that people management layer, that manager through director space. They are not really given the tools or the training. They certainly didn't come with it, because if they had, you already would have had an inclusive workspace. So they're kind of unfortunately left out, right? I myself as a DE&I trainer get asked all the time to do trainings. And my first question is, who am I training to? And I always get, well, to the staff, to the people, to the women, to the, the Black ERG, to the, and I'm like, I want to start with your people leaders. I want to start with your managers. I want to start with that front line, and I want to find out where they're at. I want to assess their bias. I want to assess their willingness to make changes to processes, their hiring process, their promotion process, because that's where the rubber meets the road.
Great, thank you. We have another question from Ash. How should white sponsors tailor their sponsorship for people of color?
I wouldn't tailor sponsorship. I would tailor your mentorship. So if you happen to be white, or you just happen to be in a point of position, right, and authority in your company, think about the pool of people that you mentor, right? Those people that you take out to lunch or you hop on a Zoom call with, and you chat with them on a monthly or somewhat regular basis. Look at the makeup of those people that you're speaking to. Do they tend to look like you? And to be clear, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. That is just the nature of the mini-me syndrome, right? I mean, let's be honest. If an African-American female who went to the University of Pittsburgh, who graduated with her degree in IT, and who's got 2 kids that lives in Indiana, shows up at my company, you better believe I'm probably going to end up being her mentor, right? I'll probably seek her out. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with that, but now's the time for you to take a check and to take an assessment of who it is that you're mentoring. And if the people tend to look a little bit like you, right, from your school or your background or whatever, number one, it's time to diversify. Start there. Now that you have a diverse pool of candidates that you can pick from, now start to look and assess to see who might be ready to move up, who with a little bit of training or wow, they're a diamond in the rough. If I could give them this experience, or if I could get them to hone in their presentation skills, or if I could get them, some financial management experience, they could really be the next fill in the blank. If you're thinking about that person, you need to let them know. And say, and you might, and it's absolutely okay for you to say, look, I don't have the time to help you get here and to help you hone that skill. Go find yourself an advisor or a mentor who can have the time to invest in you in this space. And when you're ready, I'll be happy to sponsor you to the next level.
That was wonderful, Angel. So I want to thank you for being here with us, for sharing all this knowledge you have that makes us question ourselves, also about our own biases and how to manage through them. So thank you. Thank you for everything.
Oh, thank you so much. And I hope that folks are able to pick up a copy of Dents in the Ceiling, because it will absolutely expound on all these topics that we just discussed. And it will help those that are seeking to be active allies too. Very practical tips in that book. Thank you.